Good morning, Seller Sessions. What a beautiful day. Every time I see one of my oldest friends in the Amazon space, Mr. Liran Hirschkorn, yay! Do-do-do-do-do. I don't have any fake, you know, music sounds or anything. I should bring that on next time I have you on, Liran.
Yes, exactly. Great to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, super excited to be on the podcast. You've been doing this podcast for a long time.
2 years.
2 years. I've never been a guest.
2 years. You would have never guessed, right? You're
No,
like, wait, Monday, 8 a.m.?
I know.
Me? What are you
Yeah,
talking
it's
about? I don't
early.
know what time it starts.
Yeah, it's a good thing it's 11 for me.
That's right. You see, Leon, you always get a few hours ahead of us. You
That's
wake
right.
up, you grind. By the time I wake up, you already made $1 million.
That's right.
How do you do that, Leon? Just tell us.
That's right. It's magic.
Magic. So what have you been up to? I mean, everybody knows you in the States. I think it's safe to say that a lot of people know you, but what a lot of people have noticed, and myself included, you have been just pretty much working hard for the past year, and I want to know all about it.
Yeah. I guess I've been very focused on Incrementum, Amazon agency helping brands scale on Amazon with advertising and listing optimization and influencer marketing. And for the last, I would say, few years, that's kind of been my focus. And then also, kind of some other projects. Been involved with 8Fig, which is growth capital company that's helping sellers scale, and then also doing some advising for brands as well, which has kind of been fun. One company is called Bellway Fiber. They're in Target and they're on Amazon, and I do some advising for them. So it's been pretty fun to be able to do that. My goal is to in 10 years only do that kind of like advising sort of work.
In
Uh,
10 years, you said.
what's that?
You
Yeah,
said in 10 years.
yeah, 10 years.
So you wanna keep grinding for the next 10 years and get to that point where you're like, you know what, now I want to consult. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, like when I'm old man. Uh,
Oh
I,
man.
I could yeah. I mean, my goal is to eventually just do investing slash consulting, where I can add value. But yeah, I think that's still probably somewhat further out into the future. But
Right.
that's eventually where I'd like to be. And then recently, I've had this idea for a D2C brand that's kind of been on my mind that I want to launch. So we'll see.
Interesting. So you're like, you know what? I don't have enough things to do.
Right.
Other thing that I could add. Let's do a D2C brand. I love it. I mean, you're always innovating. So when you decided, can you go back to like before you started your PPC agency? Like what made you transition from, I mean, you were already a successful seller. You've always done some type of consulting. And what made you kind of take that role on? Because a lot of people think, oh, well, I can just open an agency and I can do this. And then you do it and you're like, holy shit, what did I get myself into? So, what was that first idea that you had that, you know what, I want to do this for other people? And why would you take that on, really?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think I always like working with people, and I like helping people. And I would say I almost kind of fell into it by accident, but I think it starts with like wanting to help people, and also seeing, when I look back, it's like being able to see around corners of like what's coming. And when I started Amazon, you did not need to advertise in order to sell. Like 2014, you didn't need to advertise, and you were very limited with Amazon advertising in terms of what you could do. And starting around 2017, 2015, I took a course and I started to really learn advertising and get better at it. And starting in 2017, I saw it really getting complex. And at the time, I was partnered up with Andy Slamans, my good friend, And I said to Andy,
Andy,
shout out to Andy. I'm going to see him at Accelerate in Seattle in a couple of weeks.
please say hello from me.
I'll say hello for you. And I started to see advertising getting more complex and sellers needing help and asking. And I said to Andy, we have to start doing PPC for people. Like, we have to start doing PPC for people. We have to start a PPC agency. And I had this kind of vision for doing the agencies thing. Initially, actually, so kind of how it evolved actually was, I had this idea, but I had no idea how I would get there, right? Like, I wanted to do a PPC agency, but I didn't know exactly how to go about it. And I think it's a lesson that, like, you don't really need to know how you're going to go about it, right? You're just like, I want to do this thing, and you should start, and you'll kind of figure it out along the way. So what I did was, I had a client and a friend that was using another agency, and he was very happy with them. So I approached them and I said to them, I can help you. I can help get clients. I know people that need help with PPC. You'll do all the management, in the background, and I will help bring clients. And they said, that's great, because we're good at PPC, but we don't know how to market. So this was 2018. And so I put kind of a post out, or, I had like 5 people I was helping with that I brought them for PPC, and they started managing it. And I was kind of like overseeing what they were doing. I was communicating with the clients and this and that. But I saw that they were not staying on top of like all the latest things that were coming out. And I didn't feel good about continuing to go promote it unless it was like excellent. And I felt like super confident in what they were doing. So I went to Andy and I said, look, Andy, I want to take all this over. I'm going to go manage these clients myself now. And I don't really feel comfortable, like, continuing to work. They're good guys and stuff, but like, I had to train them on like what to do and whatever. And I don't really feel comfortable, continuing to promote it unless I'm managing it. And so I took over the clients, and then we started to really kind of like get, to have more confidence in it, and we started to get results, and we're able to take on more. And then by like the summer of 2019, I was managing about 20 clients myself, but it still wasn't my goal to like, have this like big agency. It was just like, we're doing well for people, and we started to get more, referrals and business. And I had like 20 clients. And at that point, I couldn't manage any more clients on my own. So I put out a Facebook post basically that said like, hey, I'm looking for some people to help me with a project in the Amazon space. Message me if you're interested. And a few people messaged me. And the first 3 out of the first 3 people that initially messaged me, 2 are still with the agency today. One became my partner, Brian. And the other one is still, killing it for us, and doing really, really well for the client. And one guy didn't make it, basically. Eventually I spun it off into my own agency. And at the end of 2019, I spun it off, and started to really focus on it. And, we kept growing from there. But, I think it started with wanting to help people and wanting to do, excellent work. It was easy to promote and just have somebody else in the back end, like doing the work. But when I saw that it wasn't up to like the standards I would want, I decided to like take it over and, build it up from there. But I think the key was, 1, wanting to help people, and 2, seeing an opportunity that was coming. Like, Amazon kept putting more and more focus around Amazon advertising. And you can kind of see the growth of it. And, I think having kind of like the vision that this was going to become a big area, and to kind of go after it at that point, again, not exactly knowing how you're going to figure it out. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, this D2C brand that I have in my mind. The only reason I want to do it, it's not that I don't really have the time, but it's like a passion project. I'll message you after like what I want to do. But it's really like a passion project, something that I want to do just because I'm passionate about it. I really don't know exactly how it's going to come together, but I have a few like ideas in my head. about, you know, what I want to do with it, etc. But I'm just gonna kind of follow that and you know, see where it goes, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be successful knowing you. But I want to go back because you said something so super cool. So at first you were selling, and you still sell right now, right? Like online. So
Yeah.
or is that no longer like your main focus, or you still are able to kind of focus your time in all these different areas?
So
Because it's very different being an Amazon seller and running your own agency.
yeah, so I had one brand that I sold off to a competitor, and I had another brand that I wound down in 2019, and another brand that I basically sold out of all the stock in Q4 last year and didn't renew just because of the time that it took. I could potentially bring it back if I wanted to, but yeah, it's hard to focus on, you know, doing too many things at once, and have been really focusing you know, on the agency side.
Prefer the agency? Would you say as a personal preference, would you say you're more into like working with people, working in the agency rather than doing the product yourself online?
I'm definitely more into working with people, and like one thing that I realized too is that, like, for this brand that I'm going to do on the D2C side, I'm going, you know, I already told my CEO on the agency side that, you know, I want him to be a part of it. And the reason is because over the last several years, I realized, like, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and you know, I had seven-figure brands on Amazon, but I think if I had that COO role, that I would have had eight-figure brands on Amazon, because my strength is like in the vision, in the creative, in knowing where I want to go with something, but is not in the systems. And I think if I would have had that strong systems person on the brand side, they would have gone much further. And I think it's part of the reason why the agency has done well, been able to focus on like what I do best and have the team in place. And I think it's so important. And so I no longer think about, well, I'm not going to have 100%, of the business. I think about, you know, I can have a much bigger pie and a much more successful business when I have the right people involved. And, you know, not so much about like, I'm okay in giving up sort of like the percentages in the business, because I know.
That's what do you think that's what stops a lot of people from picking up partners to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, you know, partners can be, you know, partners don't always work out. I've experienced that too. And you know, and then sometimes partners are like, you know, amazing. I think the key is you should get to know each other sort of like before you partner. So with Brian, who's my COO, he basically worked for the business for some time before, you know, before becoming a partner in the business. And actually, we were buying out a partner, and he put up some of the money, and that's how he became a partner. So I think that was the key, kind of like knowing the person beforehand. I mean, Andy, who was my first partner, I was in his course, you know, for a while, and then he asked me to help him with his course, and we worked together, and I saw who he was, etc. And actually, Andy initially invited me. He was doing a retreat in 2018 maybe, or maybe end of 2016. Actually, he was doing a retreat, and he asked me to come. And he's like, just come for free. And then I helped him develop some content, and at the end of the weekend, he gave me a check for $5,000, and, you know, said thank you. Right, like, you see who the person is. You know, so I had a chance to see that before I partner. And when I made I guess a partnership mistake, it was not knowing the partner very well and just jumping into it. So, but I do think it holds people back. And if you look at like the most successful startups, it's usually not one founder. There's usually co-founders. And the reason is, yeah, because, you know, you have more people that have skin in the game early in the business, and you have people with different strength. And I think that's really, really important, you know. But
How do you interview for that? Or would you say, do you like reverse engineer for those listening? Like, these are my skills, and you have them all on a piece of paper, and then it's like, what is the opposite of that, or what is some other skills that could complement what I have, and do you start with that? I mean, besides just people being nice, I mean, we are in a very friendly and loving community, but that can be mistaken for like, oh, this guy is super nice. It does not equate to this guy is super good as well. So how do you know, what are some things that you do to kind of grab that?
Yeah, I mean, I think working on something with that person is going to give you that experience. Is going to give you that opportunity to see those skill set. But I think knowing yourself first and what you're good at and what you're not good at is the key. So yeah, I think writing down all the things you like to do and all the things you're good at. I think if you there's a book called Traction, which talks about a visionary and a builder, or a visionary and an integrator, and trying to figure out, are you the visionary in the business, or are you the integrator in the business? And which role are you going to play? I think it's rare that somebody is both. Maybe it could be, but I think it's rare that somebody is going to be both in the business. So are you more, knowing exactly where you want to take the business? Can you see the business out 3-5 years, what it's going to be like, what your differentiating factors are, etc.? Are you more of the relationship, people, networking kind of person? I think that's more the visionary. Or are you more the person that's really good at systems and processes and putting those things in play to be able to execute on that vision? And I would first ask yourself, which one are you? And then seeing if you can find that complementary skill set. I mean, you could be, both of you being good at some of the same things is fine, but you should not be good at the same things, and that's going to help the business, and also give some kind of like division of roles of what you do in the business and what they do in the business, which is also important to kind of make sure, what do you own, what do they own in the business, and then working together. Again, for me, it kind of came organically because Brian was sort of in that role in the business already. But then I knew he was definitely the right person to partner with because he was already playing that role, and I could see how together things were working out.
Do you have a set of tests, or how do you interview for this, or do you just ask them these questions? I know, I think we talked about in the past. I mean, I think we've both done Colby, right? KOLB.
Mhm.
That's something that you give to your employees, or are there any other things that you do to make sure they're a good fit?
I mean, I think in the company we do have tests for people. We've thought about doing Colby. We haven't implemented any sort of like personality stuff, but we do think about if the person's a good culture fit. Like in our company, we developed an acronym called TAG, and that's the characteristics we want everybody to have in the company and how we measure people. And going through the EOS process helped us and hiring an EOS coach helped us figure that out too. But ours are TAG, which is team first. And that's like, we put the team above the customer. It's also internally putting sort of each other and helping each other in the company, whether or not directly helps you or not. So having a team first approach. And my philosophy is, if you take care of your team, they're going to take care of the customer. So I don't think that it conflicts, but there have been a few times where we've had to make that decision. A customer that was, not treating the team right, etc., that we've let go of the customer. And A is the ability to execute, right? You have to get the job done, and G is growth oriented. So those are the characteristics that we look for, in a team. And the other day, actually, my team, and I'll give you another example, but the other day my team interviewed somebody, and after the meeting, the guy sent me a message on LinkedIn. He said, "Hey, I'm not sure what happened, but this was supposed to be like an hour interview, and like after about 14 minutes, like your team kind of ended the interview." And I said to them, "Okay, let me kind of see, And I spoke with the team, and they're like, "Yeah, just like he didn't have the knowledge that we thought he needed to have, and we just didn't think he was a good culture fit." And then I said to the guy, look, the team didn't really think you had good enough knowledge. The guy was like, well, what do you mean? You know, they didn't even ask me this and this question and this and that. And then I saw like, okay, I understand why they ended the meeting quickly, right? Like the guy, the guy's not willing to just accept what I told him, and it, like it's not going to go anywhere anyway, right? And I could see that the guy wasn't a good culture fit. And they ended the interview shortly. So we look for those things. In terms of right now for example, we're considering some kind of partnership with somebody in our space that's good at some stuff around influencer marketing and D2C influencer marketing, and we're considering a partnership, and we're kind of doing a trial with the person as well. So we're going to see how the trial works, and then based on that trial, we'll understand to see if the skills that we want are there, and also for them, right? If they think we're a good fit for them. So my learning lesson is that sort of like doing a trial of working together is a good idea in terms of like potential partnerships. And yeah, understanding what your skill set is, and then talking to the person, asking them, what do they like to do? What are they really good at? And trying to understand, what do you need that's going to complement you well to take the business to the next level.
How big is your team now, if you can?
So we're at about 100 people in terms of total team, basically across the world. We continue to hire on a regular basis. Even when we don't need to hire, we're hiring, because we're always when we don't have to hire, that's like the best time for us to really be able to vet more heavily and really say, okay, if we find a superstar, we'll kind of find a place for them, in the business. So we're interviewing and hiring like on an ongoing basis.
And how long do you see this going? Like the hiring, like how big do you want your team to get?
I don't know. I don't have a number. I don't have a number in mind. As long as we continue to have opportunity and be able to bring great people and great clients, I think it's something we'll do. One of the things that we have focused on, I would say, in the last year or so, is working with better and better quality brands. So our client count has increased, but what I'm kind of happier about is that the quality of the brands that we work with has increased over the last year also. So as long as we can continue to bring in quality brands, then we'll continue to to expand. At the same time, we've invested in areas where I see things coming. So kind of like I saw PPC, influencer marketing is an area that we've focused more on, outside traffic, areas that I think Amazon sellers will have to focus on as just the competition in general on Amazon gets more competitive. Working with influencers and social media and outside traffic, I think is going to continue to get important.
Is it easier to work with smaller brands or bigger brands?
I would say it's definitely easier to work with bigger brands. I would say our clients are I would say the first thing is our clients are, let's say, private label brands, right? That kind of bootstrap. They started on Amazon with $10,000 in between 2012 and 2018 or something. They know their stuff really, really well, right? That means they're auditing us on a continuous basis. It means we have to be really good at what we do in order to work with those brands. So I'm proud of that. At the same time, big brands have different demands, but they don't know the technicalities of Amazon. But big brands have other challenges. Big brands want better reporting. They want to know forecasted budgets. They want to know, right, like what's my share of voice? What's my market share compared to my competition? They have different things that they're trying to answer that are challenging. But in terms of smaller brands, also like when you're working with really small brands that are, let's say, either that like the last several years of like supply chain issues and challenges on the platform, like every dollar is significantly more significant to them and their survival of their business. So they're kind of putting more pressure on you, right? It's why we only take on brands of a certain size to work with, because um, certain brands, until they get to a certain point, um, they should get to a point where they're profitable enough where they can hire an agency, right? Where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Until then, they should figure out the best ways to do it themselves, and or potentially work with like a freelancer, and build up their business enough where they're profitable enough where they can hire.
Yeah, I feel like this has to be said again because I noticed that as well with Rankbell. I mean, obviously we prefer to work with bigger brands, and we have moved on to taking more bigger brands than smaller brands, and this is one of the reasons why, because they have almost a, they have a goal that's not realistic, so they come in and they expect you to deliver this huge result for them on basically no budget, one, and two, like they don't understand the workings of it. They don't understand why they need to, spend money in marketing. And it's like, it's as easy as looking back just a few years, like just try to open a D2C store. Like how much would that cost you? Like the actual location, the rent, I mean, electricity in the place. There's all these things that we have gotten so used to having, online work and businesses and all this, that it's almost like that path does no longer exist. And it's, everybody wants immediate results for as little as possible. But that's when you have to make a decision, am I going to work with this person or not? And another thing that you mentioned that I thought was super, super good, was you saying you put your team first, because having the team that is trained and they know the results they can offer, one, and two, that they can actually communicate it to the seller. You want to have that tight relationship. And I've had people in the past that we had to fire as well. And I've noticed, and I don't know if this is something you noticed, Liran, too, but this online interaction between two people, right? Because it's online, a lot of people tend to feel like, they can say different things that they wouldn't necessarily say in front of you. And also, I noticed, they will some people tend to talk down to your team, like if it's not you, if it's not the owner. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, that's when we come in, is like, you cannot talk to like our team this way. It's almost as if I'm paying you money, therefore I
Yeah.
can act crazy. Like, no, this does not work. Like service agencies, companies, we are here to help you, actually help you and help you increase your financial status or whatever the case may be. So people tend to forget. But I love the fact that you hold your team of such value and in such a safe space. I think that's remarkable.
Yeah, and we've definitely had that. I would say definitely at least two incidences where you know we've had, which is not a lot, right? Talking about a couple of times over the last couple of years where we've had um you know a client be kind of rude, to our team. We're talking about people's money, and people get emotional about their money, and not everyone knows how to control their emotions. And yeah, we've had those cases, and actually, in one of those cases recently, we tried to make it right by, like, we told the customer, look, you can't talk this way, whatever. We tried to make it right by them. We whatever they were upset about, we even refunded a fee for them. And we should have fired them at that point, and we didn't. We kept them on. And then they left and gave us a 1-star review on Trustpilot. But it happens. It's part of business. And at the end of the day, hopefully you have clients for a long period of time, but like clients will come and go, and your team, hopefully will be there for a long time. Again, my feeling is that when you have a team that is, happy with the culture and company, they're going to do more for you, and as a result, they're going to do more for the clients. And it's a great, win-win, scenario. And if I'm willing to sacrifice a team member, because the client's being rude, and I just tell them, like, well, suck it up. The client's paying us X amount of money. That's going to create a very bad culture within your company that's going to affect you way more than that one client.
Of course. course, absolutely. I love that. I mean, that is how you create a team, a successful team. So what's going on next? And oh, by the way, I mean it's not by the way, but like I mean, you just had a baby too.
Yes. Yeah.
How
Thank you.
okay, how are you doing all of this and everything and having the businesses and D2C and online stores and a baby and do you like schedule time for yourself to do these all these different things including speaking engagements? I mean, I don't even remember and NFTs. I mean, come on.
uh, yeah. No, I mean, well, first of all, my wife, good thing for her. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think.
Shout out to Judy.
Yeah, shout out to Judy. I don't think I could have, be taking care of babies and working. No, I mean, really, like I have a great team, and that makes all the difference. So I can focus on what I'm good at, and then I have an awesome team that focuses on what they're good at, and that makes everything a lot easier. I think if you try to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, then um, you should not be the smartest person in everything in your company. You should have your own zone of genius, but you should have other people that are smarter than you in the areas that you need them to be, and that makes a huge difference. And like we have an awesome team, and that is again, that makes all the difference. There's no way that I could be doing everything in the company and it would fall apart. So yeah, I think having a great team, and then if you enjoy what you're doing, it's less likely going to feel like a job. And like, for example, this D2C project I want to do, I mentioned kind of like a passion project. So I don't, first of all, I'm not putting pressure on myself for like an expected result. And two, it's something that like I think would be kind of cool to do and like passionate about. And so it doesn't really feel like I'm just taking on like another work type project. And
Are you going to do like a case study on it? Like, are you going to make that like public? Like, do you have any?
I'm not sure yet.
Any fun things about this new brand?
I'm not sure yet. Maybe once I launch it and it's successful.
Once you launch it, it's successful. Okay, here it is.
Yeah, I mean, if it fails, then maybe I'll do a case study on it too. But yeah, maybe I've thought about that sort of like building in public kind of concept. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the one thing I know I want to do with this brand is start it with only D2C and not put it on Amazon, which is something I've actually, when I started in 2014, first I started with a Shopify store and then went into Amazon, but I never really kind of built a brand on website first and not Amazon first. So it should be an interesting experience.
I'm excited for you. Definitely something new. And
Yeah.
Are there any other things that you're working on the side? I mean, I know you're going to Sell and Scale. Are there any other events coming up that you may be speaking at?
Yeah. So I'm going to Amazon Accelerate and kind of two partners. 8Fig will be there. So I'll be spending some time with there. They have a booth there. Perpetua, who is our software partner for PPC, will be there too. So be spending time with them as well. I'll also be attending there's going to be Amazon's doing like a Buy with Prime training the day sort of the morning of the day the event starts at night. So I'll be going to that as well. And then I'm speaking. I'm going to Sell and Scale. We're going to be doing an event at Sell and Scale on Wednesday night. I haven't put it out there yet, but together with 8Fig and Perpetua, we'll be doing like a nighttime event. And then we'll be sponsoring also Brandon's event, Brandon Young's event at Topgolf, and we'll be sponsoring a bunch of his events until the end of the year. And then there'll also be Amazon Unboxed in October. That's an Amazon advertising event in New York. I'll be at, and then AIMSy Innovate will be in November in New York, and I'll be there as well. So several events, and Also hoping to go to UK sometime in November to see some of our team in Europe as well. So want
You
to be.
just give me like 6 trips in the next 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
where are you going?
Yeah, well, I've been wanting for some time to see our team that's in Europe, and initially I was planning a trip out to like Eastern Europe earlier this year. Then the war in Ukraine started, and I kind of put that off. But would like to see some of our team, so we'll probably fly out some people from Eastern Europe over to UK. And go spend some time with our team there in UK. So I'd like to do that in November this year.
Wow. All before the end of the year. What's happening next year for Liran and Incrementum, and anything you foresee?
I definitely think you'll be seeing like more of us. In terms of just Incrementum in general. I think you'll be seeing more of us. We're planning on. We're definitely planning on being more visible in 2023. So more of us, more content. This year we launched a LinkedIn newsletter. We're up to 4,000 followers on our LinkedIn. We started putting out YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. So definitely, increasing the amount of content that we put out, and then also I think just more visibility at events, etc. For next year. And I don't know. I always have a vision of what I kind of see the future, but I don't exactly plan the exact steps it's going to get there. One of my mentors, Jesse Itzler, he kind of says like, you want to have like the movie in your head, and like what the end of the movie kind of looks like, but the plot is going to change, right? Like the things along the way of how you're going to get there. I think is going to change along the way. And so I don't know exactly the plot, but I think I kind of see the movie, hopefully, of what we'll be doing over the next year.
And this mindset that you have now has been something you've been working on the past few years. I mean, even since I met you, I can see how much you have grown into, not only your business. I mean, everybody knows you're super smart and you've always been very business savvy, but this other side of you that, a lot of people don't know, this spirituality in a sense, and growth and self-development. Can you touch on that a little bit, and how has that improved your life maybe?
Yeah. Well, I would say mindset is like been something that I've been into for a long time. I went to my first Tony Robbins event in 2009. And the reason why I went to it then was I was in a MLM. And I probably wouldn't do an MLM again, but MLM, network marketing is probably one of the best like personal development vehicles that you could be in, because you're kind of selling something that everybody else is selling the exact same thing. And some people are successful and some people are not. And the only difference is you. And so there's a lot of focus there on personal development. I would say that's when I kind of got into personal development. And then 2019, you and I went to UPW, November 2019. And that December, I went to Date with Destiny. And then I also started studying Kabbalah in 2020. And Kabbalah is basically wisdom that comes from like thousands of year old wisdom that stems from like Jewish mysticism. But I wouldn't say it's as much religion as it is more, again, like wisdom. And a lot of what I saw in Kabbalah, I saw in Tony Robbins. And I've been studying that for the last few years. And for one of the first things that you learn in Kabbalah when you take Kabbalah 1, and shout out to David Guillaume, who's the co-founder of Mary Ruth Organics, who's also one of my Kabbalah teachers, is that one of the first things you learn is that kind of like overcoming your reactive nature. And when you take Kabbalah 1, the first thing you learn is to have this sort of thing of like something happens, you say pause, and then you're like, what a pleasure. So like, let's say you get a nasty email for someone, right? The last thing you would want to do is like stop and say, wow, what a pleasure. Why is this in my life, right? But you learn to take this like, opposite approach of
After getting that 1 star review on
yeah,
Trustpilot.
yeah, exactly. After getting that 1 star review, like, okay, well, maybe this is meant to make me better somehow, or improve something in my company somehow, or like what's kind of like what's the good side of this, right? But I think like the first thing you learn is to go from being reactive to pausing, being proactive. And one of the other kind of big concepts is that part of what we come into this world to do is transform from being ego focused, just like selfish, um, to still receiving and getting like blessings and good things in your life, but that it's for the purpose of sharing, right? And you kind of and that part of your purpose in life is to actually transform, and that each of us has a different aspect of ourselves that we're trying to transform. And maybe depends what you believe in, but maybe it's coming from past lives, or something like that. That is something your soul needs to transform. And so it's given me a lot of it's been amazing, and a lot of very positive things have happened in my life in the last few years. First off, you said I had a baby. Judy and I, we have our daughter Emily, who's 8, who came naturally, but like took about a year for Judy to get pregnant. And then when Emily was 2, we were trying to have another baby, and we were trying for 5 years. Judy had 5 failed IVF cycles. And then, at some point we just said, like, okay, like, we're really grateful for what we have. And like, if another baby happens, it happens. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We stopped the IVF cycles and started learning Kabbalah and got pregnant naturally, And I think one of those lessons is that, you have to, in order for you to get more, you need to appreciate what you already have. And it's kind of like a paradox, right? Because you want to strive for more, and you want to strive for growth, and you want to kind of have more in life. I think we all do, and I think it's natural. And I think you should, right? I think you should have everything you want, but at the same time, at the present moment, you have to be happy with everything you have in order to get everything you want. And it's kind of like living in a paradox. I made this post on my Facebook like a week ago about like kind of like freedom and restriction, right? Like, in order to have freedom, you have to have restriction, which is again like paradox, right? Like, if you know, I think before I went to, like, when I went to Tony Robbins in 2019 for Date with Destiny, they one of the things you did was you had to like write down all your values, and in order of like importance, And for me, like, my number one value was freedom, right? Like, which is I think for a lot of people, especially you and I, right? Like, immigrants coming to this country, America gives you the freedom and the opportunity. And for me, freedom was like, I can kind of do whatever I want, right? But then, actually learn there to replace that and not have that as my top value, because you need to also have restriction, right? Restricting your ego, restricting your selfish nature, restricting what you say. If you eat whatever you want, right? Eventually, you're not going to have freedom, right? You're going to be sick, or So, I think I learned that kind of life is living in the paradox, of wanting more but being happy with what you have, wanting freedom but restricting at the same time. And a lot of those principles I learned through this, thousands of year old, wisdom. So yeah, you can check out Kabbalah1.com if you want to,
Yeah.
if you want to take that course.
Yeah, I love it, and me and you talked about it before, and I get the messages. Thank you, by the way, from David Guillaume as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
saw for his messages, and
Oh, community. Yeah.
yeah, it's so good, so good. And I always get these little messages that inspire me throughout the day. And I think you're so right. I mean, we all do different things in life, right? We all have our own paths that we're trying to create, but being able to have something at your core that you keep coming back to, just like you said, for your team. Like there is a team culture. Like we should build a culture within ourselves. Like what is allowed and what isn't. And you're right, because you're thinking, well, as a human being, I should be fully free. And I'm very much for that. I think freedom is the ultimate dream
Right.
and goal for everyone. But you're right, there comes a point where, a child that's been, grown up with parents that don't let them go out or have a drink or anything like this. And then it's like that freedom turns into really poison in the end, because it's like, it's too much. It's too much freedom. So, always rebalancing ourselves and always finding what works for us. And that takes testing, that takes every day, and, takes growth. And, it takes different seminars and, Kabbalah and different spiritual practices. I mean, if you were to read through different ones, they all kind of have almost the same message at its core. It's just different teachers teaching it, which shows us that, something is right. And then, different cultures and different religions have kind of expanded on that. So I think having that and your work personality and your self-development personality, like all of these go one on one. Because I don't think you can fully be successful as a human if you don't apply all of these.
Yeah. And a lot of the freedom is also like sort of like in your head, right? Like freedom from limiting beliefs, freedom from sometimes the prisons we put ourselves in, right? Freedom from, thinking you can't do something, having one of the big concepts that I learned also, like David will say this a lot, is he talks about, having certainty beyond logic, right? Like, just knowing things will work out and not worrying, which, is very difficult for humans, right? To do. We're always worried, and probably most of the stuff we're worried about never comes to fruition at all. I was in Israel this past month, and we went to a mall, and it's my mom, my dad, Judy, baby David, and Emily with us. And we're walking in the mall, and we walked into a store, and I guess Emily didn't realize, right? And she continued walking. We come out of the store, and we were in the store, and we're like, "Where's Emily? We're not there. She's not there." And the first thing, my mom was like freaking out, right? So like, what's going on? So like freaking out, right? And like, I was super calm, right? So like it's just training yourself enough. And 5 minutes later, we found her. She went to someone, and people speak, and she said, "Do you speak English?" And we found her 5 minutes later, right? But she had, and she said actually they had safety training in school, which like she knew kind of what to do, which is cool. But I didn't freak out at all, right? I started looking for her, and like you have to train yourself though to be that way, because if I didn't train myself to be that way, my initial reaction would be to freak out too.
Yeah.
Right?
And to be like that in the moment that it happens, because it's easy. You're reading, you're like, I got this. And then a moment of crisis comes and you're freaking out, like, oh my God, what is going on? And those times that that's when you have to work on it.
Yes.
It's hard.
And it's very hard. So, I think a lot is kind of like overcoming our, like humans are supposed to be sort of like one level up than just being animals, right? So like overcoming our animalistic nature, like an animal's going to go see food, eat it right away, right? Like the thing about humans is that we're supposed to like be up one level from it, and be able to like overcome that animalistic nature. And I think that's been one of the keys to having success, and to hopefully also staying grounded along the way.
What a great show, Liran. It has been so good to catch up with you. And I'm definitely seeing you guys still on skill, right? You're not gonna bail or go to some fancy trip to Bora Bora.
No. I'm gonna be at Amazon Accelerate, and I'm gonna be at Sell and Scale, Unboxed, and AMZ Innovate. Hopefully, we'll be at all those events this year.
Yeah, and we'll see you more next year, I guess, as you're expanding your brand. I can't even imagine you having like 100 employees, right? I can't talk today. You already have 100 people working for you, right? I can't imagine once you start, because I think I know you pretty well. Like when you put your mind to something, your vision, it's kind of hard to stop you. So seeing more of you next year. I know that entails a lot more work on your team and on your part, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see where you're taking this. Any plans of selling Incrementum in the future?
Um,
Thought about that? Like,
yeah, no, definitely have had thoughts. I think it's still early for that, but we'll see what happens. But I would say that nothing immediate in terms of selling. I still think there's a lot of work to do.
yeah. And yeah, everybody needs you there at Incrementum. Well, everybody knows where they find you. I know Liran Hirschkorn, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm going to do it for you. Instagram. You said you have a really cool newsletter on LinkedIn.
Yeah. If you
Uh,
go to
check it
Incrementum,
out.
if you go to Incrementum Digital's page, and you subscribe to it, you also get an email that LinkedIn reminds you about the newsletter. It's super fun. Kate on our team puts it together, and uh, she puts out really combination of like information and entertainment in the newsletter. So I think you'll like it. And it
So
gives
weekly or monthly?
weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to go and check it out myself. I'll say hi to the family. Thank you for making the time to come on Seller Sessions today. Sending you
Thank
all
you.
my love, my friend. I miss you and I can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you.